Howdy folks, and welcome to Seidel Draws, the show where I draw. In this series, I'm drawing weird little creatures that are inspired by different cultures around the world and what they like to do for fun. Last week we did Easter, and this week we're going to Thailand. Starting on April the 13th and lasting till April the 15th, Thailand celebrate Songkran. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, I have no idea. It's also known as the Water Festival or the Thai New Year. Now, I learned a surprising amount of things about it, so we'll get into that into a second, but in very simple, at least from what I researched, it's basically a country-wide 3-day-long water fight, which, for a country as warm as Thailand, probably sounds amazing, but for a lonely shut-in like me, it sounds like a zombie apocalypse. Now, making a creature design based off of water fights sounds really easy, especially for Thailand, where the national animal is an elephant. An elephant has a trunk what could easily be turned into a water gun, right? Absolutely! Sadly, 2 episodes ago, I already did a water elephant, so I've already done that idea. Which isn't a bad thing, it just means I have to, I don't know, dig a little deeper for the inspiration to make a creature design. Either way though, let's dive on into the first design. So I've got a few notes here when doing research into Songkran, and these are what I've got. It says here that Songkran celebrations involve using water to purify and cleanse one of troubles or misfortune from the previous year and bless them for prosperity and happiness in the new year. That's a long breath. So from what I can tell, originally what they would do during Songkran is they would pour water over statues of Buddha and sprinkle water on, family members and friends in a display of respect, gratitude, and blessings for the new year. Nowadays, it's just a countrywide water fight, which, in a way, you are still sprinkling water over loved one's head, so it makes sense. Now, considering that this is the Thai New Year, the story of its origins do go quite deep. Too deep for me to really talk about on a video like this. I also found out that they have their own zodiac system, like how Chinese New Year does. From what I can tell, it's very similar to the Chinese zodiac. They'll also be celebrating the Year of the Horse, for example. It's weird because what I found was apparently some places in Thailand have different animals on their zodiac. Instead of Year of the Pig, they'll be celebrating Year of the Elephant, for example, but that's not like throughout the entirety of Thailand, that is just in some places. Which, another side note, I found out that China itself also does the same thing. Sometimes Year of the Rabbit gets swapped with Year of the Cat. Yeah, just thought it was a weird thing I found out. Songkran, the word, derives from the Sanskrit word Sankranti. Again, no promises that I'm pronouncing any of this correctly. However, Sankranti can rather mean going from one place to another or course change. Which makes sense because the idea is, as you make a trip around the sun, you change the zodiac sign to another animal, So either way, on to the actual creature itself. Now, Songkran focuses on purification, rejuvenation, and respecting elders. Which is fair enough, water can be seen as healing and purification stuff, so that makes sense. And since it's literally called the Water Festival, I wanted to make a powerful, unique water type creature, So it made sense to go with a very well-known water-related creature in Thailand culture, the Naga. Don't you even dare. When I mentioned earlier that certain animals get swapped in the Thailand zodiac? Well, the dragon sometimes gets replaced with the Naga. Nagas are known all around the world, but specifically in Thailand culture, Nagas are a symbol of protection and fertility. I guess because they are a deity of water, something vital to life, they kind of represent that, They're also believed to control rain and can even shapeshift. So Naga being this sacred creature what represents protection, it only makes sense to combine that with a holiday known for sprinkling water on loved ones to, grant them a good new year. At least with this first form, I kind of like the idea that in this fictional world we're making, I like the idea that maybe these festivals are actually in honor of these little dragon creatures. So in a literal sense, these creatures do control the rain, but they control the rain of the water festival. People spraying their water guns and everything, in a sense, making rain. These fictional creatures, control that in a way. I thought that was a cute little connection. I don't know if I explained that well though. Talking about the art side for just a second, Nagas, despite being simple in body shape, drawing-wise they have these very complex parts on their tails and faces that trying to turn into a cute baby, especially in pixel art, was surprisingly difficult. I do like the idea of how I turned its scales/feathers into, water, because obviously, it being a water creature, it can control water. I don't know how obvious it was, but I did try and convey its body language to almost look like a water gun itself. I don't think I did it very well, but the idea was there. But either way, here we have Slibble, a mix between snake and dribble, because, you know, dribble's a little amount of water. I hope you like it. I tried to convey what a Naga is while still making it cute and, you know, its own little guy. I don't think it looks like a Naga necessarily. You'll have to let me know what you think of it though. If I ever had a chance to redraw this not in pixel art, I would probably, you know, fill its mouth with crazy teeth to make it look a bit more dragon-like. But considering it is also meant to represent, you know, the purity and celebration and things like that, I think that covers that nicely just the same. And I like that the rings around its body subtly look like armbands, because, you know, it's the little baby. But either way, now on to its evolution. So, as I mentioned earlier, Nagas represent fertility, and considering how important water is in general to just sustaining life, it makes sense. And when doing my research, I found out a lot of old Thailand mythology stories of Nagas shapeshifting into humans, for all sorts of different reasons. And considering that Nagas also represent transformation, it makes sense to have its evolution be a lot more different to its pre-evolution. I wanted its evolution to be a lot more humanoid, a lot more motherly, so to speak. Especially because another really important facet in Songkran is respecting the elderly. So as much as I wanted the pre-evolution to be all fun-loving, water fight, you know, I wanted the creature to look a lot more subtle, if that makes sense, less energetic, more mature, more older, but still respected and treated with, well, respect, I just said that. As a creature, I almost like the idea that when they were in their pre-evolution forms, they wanted to join in the water fight festivities so much that their evolutions used to be them shapeshifting fully to look like humans. The idea being, over time, they realised that, you know, humans don't judge them or anything, so as the years went on, they bothered less and less to actually try and look human. Which I think also represents how popular Songkran is as a tourist attraction. In doing my research, I found out that so many other people like to visit Thailand specifically to join in the celebration of Songkran. And I think there is something really special about joining in a celebration despite it not necessarily being from your own culture. I think there's always something really magic about that. So adding a little representation of that into this idea, I thought it was cute. I gave the first form like watery, like a crescent frills going down along its back. I like the imagery of turning that into, you know, gushing, wavy water hair. Again, still giving that impression that it did used to shapeshift look fully human, however, it's now let go of that and just embraced what it really is. Another inspiration for it, you know, changing that, you know, it used to fully be transformed into a human, but nowadays it doesn't. When learning about Songkran, it was almost as if I was learning about two holidays. I was learning about what Songkran traditionally was, and then also learning about what Songkran is now. So the idea of a holiday still being celebrated, just differently in different time periods. So the idea of this creature once doing something different, but now doing this, I thought also fit in with that vibe, you know? I also gave it a long skirt. It was really important to make sure that although this was clearly humanoid and feminine, it wasn't bordering on risque, you know? Plus, as a design, I think it works because, again, you can imagine that back when it was fully turning into a human, it would hide the rest of its serpent-like body under the long skirt, but now it's free to show it, you know? Plus, the imagery of, like, the idea that its tail can, like, hold on to water and spew it, the imagery of, like, water from the dress, breaking away from the dress and riding up to tail, joining onto this, like, watery ball ready to be thrown, I really like that imagery. I also changed its blue rings into red rings. Originally I didn't want to keep them because the idea of needing armbands, even though you're an adult, didn't make sense. But then the body looked a bit too blank, you know, so I made them bright red, again, just to add a bit more femininity, plus I just think it looks nice. Oh, and just one final thing, again, when doing research I kind of fell down this little rabbit hole, so I found out that despite this being known as the Thai New Year celebration, Thailand celebrates New Year's on the 1st of January. For reference, if you live in the Western world like England or America, so do you. So apparently, Songkran did used to be the official New Year, but it isn't anymore. At least not officially. Thailand as a country still celebrates New Year at, you know, December 31st going into January 1st. However, Songkran still brings in the New Year on the solar calendar. I think I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am. And from what I can tell, the solar calendar is the Buddhist calendar. So if you're a Buddhist, the year for you is 2569. The urge to not make a time travel joke. I'm going to try and be mature. I just wanted to share a fun thing I learned. It's so obvious when you think about it, but a lot of religions do have completely different years. I also learned that the calendar the Western world uses, you know, where New Year starts on January 1st, that's known as the Gregorian calendar. Did you know that? I did not. But either way, I just thought that was interesting. So Songkran isn't the literal Thai New Year, it's more so the Buddhist New Year. At least from what I can tell. Again, full disclosure, I'm an idiot, so anything I'm saying is wrong, feel free to correct me. I just wanted to bring that up because it was kind of similar to last episode where I spoke about Easter, where religion and culture aren't necessarily interchangeable, but they are so interwoven into each other where so much of religion is now part of our culture, you know? I just think it's really interesting. Either way, here is So Nurture, a mix between Songkran, Nurture, and, you know, because it's so nurture. I thought it was interesting that I moved its horn to the above of the head. I can't tell if that was just a drawing decision or if that's actually what its anatomy. I don't know if it does actually have the horn in front of its head like it's pre-evolution still. I don't really know. I hope you like the vibe. That I was trying to go for, you know, like a mother who's like way too old to be joining in water fights, but she still likes to play with the youngins. You know, I thought that was kind of cute. And I hope you like both of them. It was a lot of fun learning about Songkran and Thai culture, and if you didn't know anything, I hope you enjoyed learning stuff. And just as designs, I hope you like them. If you don't, feel free to let me know. And if you do, well, you know, a little compliment wouldn't hurt either, would it? If you celebrate Songkran in a few days, I hope you have a grand old time. And if you don't, well, I hope you enjoyed learning something new. I'll let you all enjoy the rest of your day, or if you're off to bed, I hope you have the sweetest of dreams, and I will see you all in a bit. Toodaloo! Bye!